an 18-year-old college student in her second year at the University of Virginia, went out to enjoy a night that was supposed to be full of laughs and fun. Exactly what we all expect when we're in college, right? But that night ended in a way that was far from fun. After getting drunk and being alone, Hannah met a guy, and her last words before disappearing forever were, "I'm not getting in the car with you." Seriously, who still thinks it's a good idea to get into a random car after watching too many horror movies? So what happened after that? Where did she go? Hannah vanished without a trace in the early hours. Still a mystery that's got us all scratching our heads.
Please, 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 help end this nightmare for all of us. Please help us to bring Hannah home. Thank you.
Hannah Graham was born in England, the daughter of John and Sue Graham, and the younger sister of James Graham. When she was 5, the family moved to the United States and settled in the Stratford Landing area of Fairfax County, Virginia, a charming neighborhood once known as River Farm. The land was previously owned by George Washington. Hannah came from a solid family, and she was a happy, smart girl who loved life. She was bright, athletic, musically talented, and overall an amazing person full of energy, until she met Jesse Louis Matthew Jr. From that moment on, her world turned dark and terrifying. In every photo of Hannah Graham, she's always smiling from her childhood to her teenage years. She was full of life, radiating positive energy and enthusiasm that could light up a room. To those who knew her, Hannah had the potential to change the world. Her future was so bright, but tragically, it was cut short by a crime that's too often tainted the world with its selfish evil. And to think she probably would have been the one lighting up the room at every party, if only life had given her more time. On September 12, 2014, around 9:30 p.m., Hannah left her place at the Grand Mark apartment complex to meet up with her friends. They went to the Fig restaurant in Charlottesville around 10:48 p.m. to have some drinks. After that, Hannah headed to Camden Plaza Apartments on 14th Street for a party. At one point, she said she wasn't feeling well and was going to head home. A friend offered to take her back, but Hannah turned them down. Her apartment was within walking distance from Camden Plaza, but when she left the party around midnight, she walked in the opposite direction toward Tempo Restaurant, which was a few blocks away. Hannah was caught on surveillance cameras as she walked past businesses along her route toward the Charlottesville Mall, where Tempo was. This would turn out to be an important clue later on. Technically, it was already September 13th around 12:44 a.m. At 12:56 a.m., Hannah texted one of her friends saying she was lost and wasn't feeling well. Hannah was believed to be heavily intoxicated when she sent the text. Was she lost by accident, or was she just confused because of the alcohol? Meanwhile, across town, 32-year-old Jesse Matthew, a part-time cab driver and operating room technician, went to the Lazy Parrot for drinks. After that, he hopped from bar to bar in downtown, making some unwanted and inappropriate advances toward women he met along the way. The same women later reported that Matthew had crossed boundaries with them. For some time, Matthew and Hannah finally crossed paths by chance. First, he let her pass without drawing attention, but then he saw his opportunity and turned around to follow her. With Hannah heavily intoxicated, her awareness of her surroundings was slow, which was very dangerous since she was alone. Surveillance footage showed her wandering around, seemingly confused about where she was and what time it was. Matthew approached her, put his arm around her, and they walked together toward Tempo Restaurant. Matthew went inside and bought 2 drinks. There were some contradictions about whether Hannah was inside the bar or outside at a table, and whether she was actually served drinks. The last message Hannah sent to her friend said, "I'm stuck downstairs," which didn't make sense to her friend. It was 1 a.m. at that point, and that was the last communication from Hannah. Had a predator claimed his next victim? The next day, on September 14th, Hannah's friends became very worried and reported her missing. The last they heard from her was around 1 a.m. on the 13th. Now, they couldn't reach her at all, and no one had seen her. Hannah wasn't the type of person to just disappear without telling someone. She was responsible, and everyone's concern grew deeper with each passing hour. Police quickly began the search for Hannah, with both state and federal law enforcement called in. Hannah's disappearance unsettled many people. Several other women had also gone missing in Charlottesville and Albemarle County in the past, so Hannah's case quickly gained national attention. They had to find her fast. With a thorough investigation and gathering surveillance footage around the city, law enforcement was able to piece together a timeline of Hannah's steps throughout the night, including who she was seen with and when. Hannah, where are you? Maybe you guys have some wild conspiracy theory about where she went? Did she think she was on a plane instead of walking? She could have been so drunk, she thought she was flying and imagining a plane crash. If that's the case, walking to her friend's apartment actually makes more sense, right? But seriously, imagine if it was your sibling or someone you loved. How would you feel if they suddenly disappeared like that? I'd be totally shocked, depressed even. It would totally blow my mind. Later, hundreds of people gathered at the University of Virginia to show their support for Hannah Graham and her family during a candlelight vigil. Many of them also supported the search efforts to find Hannah. They wanted to do whatever they could to help. Hannah had touched so many lives and cared for them, and now it was their turn to return the favor.
We would like again to express our enormous gratitude to all those who have been involved in the search for Hannah, including the police, the professional search teams, the people staffing the telephone tip line, UVA students, our friends, neighbours and work colleagues, as well as the citizens of Charlottesville and the surrounding area.
Jesse Matthew Jr., KALJ, had a tough start in life. He grew up in poverty, got bullied in school, and struggled with speech and learning disabilities. But hey, he somehow managed to overcome all that and got a full scholarship to play football at Liberty University. Not too shabby, right? But apparently there was a darker side to him. In 2002, he was accused of raping a fellow student at Liberty. So what does he do? He bolts from their faster than you can say football scholarship and signs up at Christopher Newport University in 2003. Guess what? His dark side shows up again, and he's accused of another sexual assault. At this point, it's safe to say he might not have been making the best college decisions. Through dropping out for good, he bounced from job to job, including a gig as a taxi driver in Charlottesville, Virginia, where he definitely knew the ins and outs of the area. In 2005, things took a darker turn when a young woman was attacked and raped while walking home from a store in Fairfax County. Matthew allegedly threatened to kill her unless she complied. She was left alive but severely shaken, and thankfully the authorities managed to gather DNA evidence from the scene. They built a profile, but surprise, surprise, the DNA didn't match anyone in the criminal database. The victim, understandably terrified for her life, decided to pack up and move back to India. But here's where things get weird. Matthew was also described by family and friends as a kind soul and always willing to help others. They even said he had a big heart and was gentle. Heck, women who had dated him in the past said he was charming and loving. Yet somehow, he was also accused of a series of assaults on at least 12 women. Yeah, this story doesn't add up, right?
Don't miss this exciting story. Watch this video until the end to get all the surprising detail. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. That way you won't miss out on any other interesting videos. Join our community and enjoy various exciting stories every week.
One of Matthew's exes told the cops that he had a really rough childhood. This included being sexually abused by at least 3 different people when he was in elementary school. One of them did it over and over and made him keep it a secret. Trauma like that, at such a young age, probably played a big part in the problems he had later in life. Even though his family and friends never really confirmed it, Matthew himself admitted to being sexually abused when he was growing up. If that's true, it could explain why he went from being such a nice guy to someone so dark. Was it his environment or something else that made him go off the rails? Matthew's dad was a mess too, always getting drunk and sometimes not even being around. In fact, his dad got arrested in 2006 for something really messed up. With a background like that, it's no wonder Matthew ended up so screwed up. Question is, was he just taking out his anger on the world for what happened to him, or was there something deeper going on? The detectives got a search warrant for Jesse Matthews' apartment, who had already earned the nickname Back-to-School Killer. Inside, they found a phone with no SIM card and a pair of men's shorts covered in DNA. Imagine this, Matthew's DNA was there, but not just his, Hannah's DNA was hanging out on those shorts too. Oh, and they also found Hannah's DNA on the passenger door of Matthew's car. What a coincidence, right? The next day, the detectives weren't done yet. They went back to his apartment for another search. Even though Matthew hadn't officially been charged with Hannah's disappearance, he was clearly the prime suspect. After all, he was the last person seen with Hannah before she suddenly vanished. The detectives left his apartment with several bags of evidence, including Matthew's Galaxy phone, a bed, pillows, clothes, his toothbrush, hair samples. Yep, they took his hair! His wallet, cigar butts, and some fibers they thought were important. Then a third search warrant came through. They grabbed a pair of white shorts, a maroon shirt, and a towel with reddish-brown stains. Probably what you think it is. Matthew's orange Chrysler Sebring also got confiscated. Nothing was off limits. They even brought in a dog unit, and those dogs picked up Hannah's scent at the back door of Matthew's apartment, the passenger door of his car, and the nearby trash bins. Who knew even the trash would be part of the evidence? On September 20th, Matthew showed up at the Charlottesville police station, asked for a lawyer, but when questioned about Hannah, he just pulled a cool action movie smile and stayed silent. Then, in true Fast and Furious style, he sped off from the police station in his car. The detectives tried to follow, but Matthew disappeared like a ninja, sparking a nationwide manhunt. Plus, turns out Matthew had made a new driver's license and pulled most of his money out of the bank. Wanted posters started popping up, showing him as a black guy in his early 30s with dreadlocks and a thick beard. He's nearly 6 feet tall and weighs over 260 pounds, like a rugby player on a mission. Last seen wearing a white t-shirt and black jeans, likely driving his sister's blue Nissan. Meanwhile, Matthew's family was beyond frustrated, begging him to cooperate with the detectives. His aunt, Alice Fletcher, even told the cops that the family was doing everything they could to help Hannah's family find their missing daughter. Then, on September 24th, Matthew was caught chilling on a beach in Texas, camping out in a tent like he was on vacation. After his car was seized, he took off in his sister's 1997 blue Nissan SRA. Some passerby, who had obviously been watching the news, recognized him and was like, "Wait, isn't that Matthew?" Boom, 911 was called. Cops came, arrested him, and started the extradition process. Detectives from Charlottesville flew to Texas to pick him up, officially naming him as a suspect in Hannah's disappearance. As for the reward for info on Hannah, started at just $1,000, not bad for a second-hand scooter or something. But after Matthew was nabbed, the reward shot up to $100,000. I mean, at least the family could breathe a bit easier, not exactly broke, if someone could just point out where Hannah is. But here's the kicker. Hannah was still missing when Matthew took off. So yeah, still a mystery. Pretty confusing, right? Finally, Matthew was officially charged as the suspect in Hannah's disappearance. The guy, suspected of kidnapping Hannah, was sent straight to jail. Virginia police got the heads up from Texas cops, and they figured out Jesse Matthew, 32, had been chilling in Texas at least since Tuesday. While in Texas, he even hit up a convenience store. Guess what he bought? bug spray. Yeah, real smooth when you're on the run. After that, Matthew was taken to the Charlottesville-Albemarle Regional Jail, where he'll be held without bail. The search for Hannah kept going, and on October 18th, some skeletal remains were found on a property on Old Lynchburg Road, Albemarle County. The place was deep in the woods behind an empty house. Investigators expanded their search area, hoping to find more clues. The team went back into the field, digging deeper. ABC's Bosi Kanani reported live from Charlottesville that night. Police sealed off the location, which had become a crime scene after the remains, likely belonging to 18-year-old Hannah, were discovered. The usually upbeat police chief of Charlottesville looked pretty down, saying more tests were needed to confirm the identity, but he still thanked all the search teams. Nearby the remains, they also found a top and jeans, matching the clothes Hannah was last seen in. But here's the creepy part. The top was inside out and only one side of the jeans was in the right position. They also found a watch. But what was missing? Her underwear, shoes, and phone. Yikes, right? This is starting to sound like something out of a Ted Bundy serial killer movie, stalking through the woods. Remember how Ted Bundy had a thing for necrophilia in the woods? Seems like this country's got no shortage of creepy serial killer vibes. A local resident told investigators that on the morning of September 13th, they saw Matthew's car parked backwards on an access road behind the property. The gate was closed and there was no one in the vehicle. The investigators realized Matthew was very familiar with the area because he had been driving a taxi in that neighborhood for years. So yeah, he definitely knew all the hidden out-of-sight spots. Looks like he had his own favorite action parking spot, huh? The remains were taken to Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Kevin Way in Richmond, who did the autopsy and determined the cause of death was violent, most likely strangulation or suffocation. But hold up, there's more. 2 broken nasal bones were found, which means they happened right around the time of death. And the biggest shocker? The victim was confirmed to be Hannah Elizabeth Graham. It's like the last pieces of the puzzle finally fit together, right? After collecting DNA evidence, investigators managed to link Matthew to Hannah's murder. But that's not all. They also connected him to another murder that took place in October 2009 of Morgan Dana Harrington. In January 2010, Morgan's remains were found on a 742-acre property at Anchorage Farm in Albemarle County, Virginia. The farm owner first thought it was animal bones, but when he got closer, he realized it was human bones and immediately called the cops. Morgan's death was ruled a homicide. And here's the crazy part. Hannah and Morgan's remains were found just 6 meters apart. Forensic evidence found on Morgan's clothes matched Matthew's DNA. And surprise, surprise, that DNA also matched a 2005 assault case in Fairfax, Virginia. Now, 3 women are linked to the brutal actions of a serial killer. Who would have thought Matthew was behind this horror story? Once again, let's dive into Jesse Matthews' past. How does someone become a serial killer? The answer lies in their personal development from birth to adulthood, especially the behaviors shaped by their life experiences. So yeah, it's not like he became a serial killer just because he watched too many horror movies, right? A person's behavior is definitely influenced by their life experiences and some biological factors. Serial killers, like all humans, yes, even those who don't collect creepy dolls, aren't necessarily tied to any particular religion or terrorist background. Matthew's actions were the result of bad experiences, an unhealthy environment, and the choices he made throughout his life. Trauma built up over time, and well, it just got out of control. On February 10, 2015, Matthew was officially charged with Hannah's murder. He faced first-degree murder charges and kidnapping with intent to conceal the victim. Prosecution was aiming for the death penalty. But hold up, Matthew's defense lawyer had a different move. They tried to offer a plea deal, where Matthew would confess to the murders of Hannah and Morgan Harrington in exchange for just 25 years in prison. The victims' families, who'd been fighting for justice for so long, finally got together to discuss the deal. When they found out the terms, they flat out rejected it. 25 years? That's it? That punishment feels more like something you'd give someone who stole a plate of fried rice, not a killer who's caused years of pain for families. On March 2, 2016, Matthew agreed to confess to the murders of Hannah Graham and Morgan Harrington in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. Matthew's family begged for a lighter sentence, while he admitted to killing Morgan in 2009 and Hannah in 2014. By owning up to it, he managed to dodge the electric chair, although it kind of looked more like a get-out-of-death-free card for him. Thanks to the plea deal, Matthew's trial lasted less than 3 days. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of early release, even if he lives to be 100. He's serving 4 consecutive life sentences, plus charges of assault and rape in Fairfax County in 2005. So, in short, Matthew confessed to 2 murders and kidnappings. The sentence he got was pretty harsh, but honestly, for a case like this, anything less would have been way too light. Commonwealth still has the right to bring back the charges if Matthew breaks the deal. Basically, if he messes up again, he better be ready for a bigger mess than a month-end shopping list. 4 life sentences with no discounts. Oops, I mean no chance of parole. Ensure he's on a permanent staycation in jail, giving the victims' families peace without the whole courtroom drama. Judge David Schell, serious face on, laid out how brutal Matthew's actions were. The drama didn't stop there. His mom shouted and had to be escorted out. Matthew? Cool as a cucumber, sitting there like a kid caught cheating on a test, except this is way more intense. He even had his lawyer apologize to the victims' families, cause, DMing them from behind bars isn't really an option. Tracy said, "We're on board with this deal to make sure Matthew doesn't repeat his mess." So, Matthew's officially retired from causing trouble, and everyone else can sleep better at night, except for him, who'll be sleeping on that prison bed. Judge David Schell highlighted just how brutal Matthew's crimes were. Back in 2010, Matthew got arrested for trespassing, but his DNA wasn't taken since it was considered a minor offense. Hannah's parents believe that if his DNA had been collected then, Hannah would still be alive. Now, a new law requires DNA collection for certain minor offenses. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to Eiffel the Dark. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out whenever we cover new shocking cases. Stay safe and alert. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.